Hi, I'm Britt Harter with Guidehouse, and I'm really pleased to be here speaking with Luke Beerens from Mars about the supplier leadership on climate transition, which is a new supply chain collaborative launched by Mars as the founding member, PepsiCo, and McCormick with support from Ceres and the Food Marketing Institute. So I'm pleased to have Luke here, and we'll be asking him a few questions. So to start,
Thank you, Britt.
so Luke, what is the supplier leadership on climate transition, besides a bit of a mouthful?
It is a partnership between Guidehouse and the consumer goods companies you just mentioned. And that partnership is providing support, guidance, resources to suppliers to set carbon reduction targets and to develop climate action plans. Initially, this coalition will focus on carbon footprinting and the target setting. But going forward, we will also provide support to our suppliers in turning that into climate action plans and delivering against those targets.
Fantastic. So why did Mars choose to be part of this? Why did you choose to be the anchor leader?
Yeah, obviously, and I think that's the same for every company, the majority of our emissions is in our extended supply chain. So we need our suppliers to act in order to achieve our goals. But actually, and probably even more important, by mobilizing our suppliers, we can drive bigger transformation, bigger change. And we were looking for a effective solution, how to mobilize and provide that support to our suppliers. And Guidehouse, more or less at the same time, was playing with the idea of forming a coalition and do this in a very efficient way. And Locked was born.
Exactly. I mean, I've been in this field for 20 years, and we've been looking at the concept of suppliers, and particularly in agricultural and food supply chains, are the emissions are huge, and it's so hard to control. And there've been every 2, 3, 4 years, someone sets a new target or a new initiative or a new software something to try to make some movement. But I think so they've all been challenged. And so what is it about this one that you feel like is different or is going to really make some change?
I would say it's efficiency and effectiveness. Since we are doing this together with our industry peers, we are coming with one ask to our suppliers, and our suppliers who are often shared suppliers. So it is efficient for us as off-takers, but also efficient for suppliers. And the other point I would say is that through the support that Guidehouse is providing, makes this, I think, different from previous approaches. It gives that personal touch. It gives hands-on support to our suppliers, how to do the footprinting and how to turn that into setting climate goals.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think that human touch or that sort of relational aspect with the suppliers and the supply chain, they are real people, not just lines on a spreadsheet. So how does this fit in terms of how does Locked fit into your larger both decarbonization goals, supply chain goals? And you've made some very impressive reductions so far.
Yeah, I mean, as said, we need our suppliers to achieve our carbon reduction goals. We're not only focusing on carbon, we also are addressing other environmental, but also social issues. And addressing those issues often means going into long-term intervention programs and relationships with our suppliers. And likely, in most cases, means that we have to simplify our supplier base. So those suppliers that join the Locked initiative and start their footprinting, start their target setting, and develop climate action plans are very likely the suppliers we want to build relationships with going forward. So it goes hand in hand.
Absolutely. And I mean, and you guys have been out front on suppliers for years. I mean, when I think about ingredient sourcing and responsibility there, you've been thinking about your supply chain in the social and environmental sphere for a long time. What is it about Mars that lets you be so forward thinking, unique, sort of able to drive action in the supply chain?
I wouldn't say we are that unique. I think that our industry peers are doing great work as well. I think the power of this coalition is not to be unique. It's to come with one common ask to our suppliers. And in this case, it means we ask our suppliers to set science-based targets and or commit to 100% renewable electricity. And by simplifying or aligning that message and not to be unique from our industry peers, I think that makes this coalition work and makes it work for the industry, our industry peers, but also makes it work for the suppliers.
No, I think that's a great point, and I think the pre-competitive nature, the fact that that you can all come together, build a bigger pool, a bigger platform, and that everyone can sort of move together in that learning makes such a difference. Because so often the supplier solutions are meant to be individual, and the individual companies, as you say, lose steam, or that just it becomes exhausting and overwhelming to the suppliers. And being able to join hands, with PepsiCo, with McCormick, with leading NGOs to try to build something that's scalable is really exciting.
Yeah, correct. And you just mentioned, McCormick and PepsiCo, and yeah, obviously the plan is to build out that coalition and for other industry peers to join and to have an even bigger impact on this planet. Yeah,
absolutely. I know we've had conversations with, I said, nearly my entire refrigerator and my entire pantry about possibly coming together to be a transformational effort in that way. What was it like to stand locked up? I mean, it is getting major brands together to agree is not easy.
I think this is the advantage of being the first one. So you can actually define the scope. And once we have aligned on the scope between Mars and Guidehouse, this went really easy. And I think from the first conversation to when we started to engage our suppliers was a period of a few months. And the scope as we defined it is to ask our suppliers to set science-based targets or join the RE100. But from there onwards, it went extremely smoothly, and apparently this scope works for our industry peers as well, because as said, PepsiCo and McCormick have joined, and we are getting a lot of interest from other companies that are eager to join this coalition.
And I think that's one of the things that really makes sense to me, is that the ask of suppliers is, in line with leading practice, doesn't necessarily have cost today. Something that they'll be seeing other places is reusable from supplier to supplier and from brand to brand. And so, you guys really came together on an ask that was both bold, but also achievable.
Exactly, and yeah, and it works for both indirects and directs. So our complete supplier base.
Absolutely. So, looking ahead, what do you see as next for the supplier leadership on climate transition? Next on supply chain generally, what can we expect to see?
Yeah, as said, we like to, and there are already plans to build out this coalition and to build further scale. For us as Mars, we have started with our top 200 suppliers and want to extend that to the broader supplier base. And the third one, as I said in the beginning, we currently focus on footprinting and target setting. The important piece, not that is unimportant, but the important piece is that we all then start working against those goals. So climate action plans, developing those, and again for suppliers to then get support from Guidehouse to develop those climate action plans is what's next.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and that's what we're seeing all across the board on supply chain. Is the sense that supply chain is crucial is established. The sense that engagement with suppliers, particularly using sophisticated human platforms for training, is essential. And now the question is, how do we drive the change? How do we actually drive decarbonization beyond those leadership brands who've been on it for 2 decades? And how do we start to make that transition? Whether it's abatement roadmaps or renewable energy or electrification or scope 1 efficiency reductions in a financed way that makes sense. So, then that's what we're seeing again and again is how can we drive this change? Because we know we need it, and the clock has ticked so much that we're now really starting to see other brands take bold action as well on that topic.
Exactly. And Britt, maybe a question for you. So those are the 3 things that I think we want to do next, and from where we are now. What is missing? So what do you think we need to add to those 3 steps?
Mm-hmm. So I think those are the right 3 steps. And again, the thing that where I always see the moment is the money and the action. Where footprinting, target setting, road mapping are extremely important. You really can't get started without those, but you have to be ready to help those organizations make the actual change, using technology, which is becoming more and more efficient, using finance, which is becoming more and more important as ESG capital rises and there's more and more money around. Putting together those vehicles to actually decarbonize in the supply chain, I think is the next big opportunity where I think we'll all be going, or I hope we'll be going, because that's really ultimately what we need is to reduce the emissions, not just to plan to reduce the emissions.
Yeah. And so you have been working, with Mars for quite some while, and obviously with other industry peers. Do you see a change in how we or others are addressing sustainability?
I think yes. I think this has really been a transformational moment, and yeah, I've been working with brands like that for about 20 years, and I think now what we're seeing is it's less. You have to spend less time making the case for why it matters. Less time, fewer hockey sticks, fewer ice caps and polar bears, and more. All right, let's get this done. And so that's really what we're seeing. We're seeing, better buy-in, better integration into the organizations, and better sense from everyone, sort of the ability to carry through hard moments, because these targets are now seen as more permanent, more necessary, more meat behind them, and so you're really starting to see action to meet what were voluntary climate goals, but once upon a time were almost sort of PR exercises, and now they're really being seen as core because of the expected regulation, expected price on carbon, sort of putting these things into place and putting meat behind them as core business.
Yeah.
What would you, as you would sort of think about other suppliers and other companies who maybe are starting on a journey that Mars is a little bit further along, what lessons would you give them?
Obviously some interventions, some actions you do yourself because you have specific needs, you have specific standards. But in general, I would say these kind of coalitions, where it's possible, is a great way to drive action and to make it as that efficient and efficient for suppliers. Instead of hearing different asks from different off-takers, you come with one aligned goal. So I would say join this coalition, or start a new one, whatever makes more sense. But let's make the climate action is already difficult. So let's make the rest as easy as possible, so that we don't use that as an excuse for not getting into action mode.
That's a great point. So I know we're just about at time. I'm seeing the little text come up to me. So do you have last thoughts that you'd like to share with this group? Thank you again for being with us. Any last words of wisdom?
Words of wisdom. No, I want to thank Guidehouse for reaching out to us at the end of last year. It was at a perfect time where we were looking at how can we mobilize our suppliers and be mutual to our suppliers and offering support in helping them to set their climate goals. And I want to thank you, Britt, and your colleagues with reaching out to us. And within a period of a few months, we have built something which is not only going to help us as a company to achieve our goals, but as said, even more important, is going to have a significant impact on this planet. And yeah, I'm pleased with that. I'm proud of what we achieved. So thank you.
I'm proud too. Thank you. Thank you again to you and Mars and your leadership, to PepsiCo, to McCormick, to Ceres, the Food Marketing Institute, and to Reuters for giving us this time. And thank you to our audience for making time for us in your computers. And so thanks again, Luke. And this will be us saying goodbye.
Thank you, Britt. Bye-bye.